Ellis, would you like to introduce yourself? I saw Ellis and his twin brother at Helen Hogg's Rehabilitation, and I was very, very impressed by the story. It was very, very moving and inspirational. So I'm really looking forward to what you've got to say.
Thank you very much. So yeah, hello everyone. My name is Ellis. I know I just introduced myself, but the company that I founded with my brother is called Neumind, and our real mission is try and make providing gold standard neurological rehab simple, because it is certainly not. And the reason why I got into this is my brother Luke. So this is my identical twin. He suffered a brain injury back in 2012. He had to learn how to walk, talk, feed, wash himself all over again. You know, it really is one of the most difficult challenges that someone can go through. And as a caregiver, being with him kind of every step of that journey, and it really is like, you know, the caregivers outside of that acute phase who are ultimately the ones who are there delivering that support day to day, and they're also the ones who are perfectly placed to help support not only their basic needs, but try and help them towards independence. So Luke's not alone, and I've got different conditions here, and I'll explain why I'm going to bring these together. But this is a huge global problem. 275 million people living with a neurological injury or condition, and they all will likely have short or most likely even chronic long-term problems with memory, fatigue, emotional regulation, and a really important one, actually, insight awareness into their own condition. And you know, these are huge numbers, but imagine waking up and not, you know, knowing what day of the week it is, how to use the dishwasher, perform simple tasks. So these are the challenges that these people face every single day. And when you factor into the caregivers, this is a huge, you know, 500 million plus, actually bigger than that. And put this in perspective with other kind of, you know, in vogue conditions like diabetes, blows it out of the water. And by this is actually 2050. So excuse that. It could be about, I don't know how the population of the planet can support, but it might even be 100 billion by that distant future date. But yeah, what is kind of like effective? You know, what's going on here? It's different companies coming in to this massive problem from different angles. And I've got neuropsychological rehab at the top there because this is what is considered the gold standard. It's what where my brother got fortunate enough to go to an NHS funded centre. It's now closed due to funding reason, but it is the most effective. It's gold standard, as I said. It's very versatile across different conditions because it's focused on that individuals based on their values and their goals, and it's a program developed around those unique challenges, and it is complementary. You don't get good outcomes by just applying one of these things. You apply these things, you know, some great recent innovations in AR, VR, cognitive training, but you get the best outcomes when it's combined with a specialist-led program. The same application, if you look at even some of the latest drugs being released for dementia, the outcomes are not very good when they're just given in isolation, and when they're given with a proper program, you know, you get up to 10 times enhancement of those outcomes. So the problem is also it's incredibly expensive. This is a multidisciplinary team. Often you might even have a ratio of 3 to 4 specialists per patient. Capacity is limited. So, you know, the effects of this really is that the majority of people don't get the care they need. And if they do get the care, it only lasts a matter of months or weeks, whereas they will live with these challenges for the rest of their lives. So this should be treated more akin to a lifelong problem like diabetes is managed, not an acute issue like a physical rehab problem. And the impact this has, really, the burden gets picked up by family members. So this is on average 8 hours a day, and you know, someone's talking earlier about their father who had dementia. This is something that 1 in 3 of us in this room will become a caregiver in this field. So it's something that we really pay a lot of attention to. So why is this system failing? And I could probably have listed about 50, 60 problems, but I'm trying to kind of simplify this because you need that simplicity in order to then, make a change. So in the neuro field, 6% of clinicians still rely on paper-based methods, primarily the adherence to therapy. So prescribed therapy, go do these exercises, do these times, is incredibly low. And it's also got the highest portion of time spent on non-patient tasks and admin. Like why, again, there's many reasons, but some of the main ones is that these individuals have cognitive impairment. So you can't expect them to deal with or interpret education, therapy prescription the same way as the general public. And also, unlike physical rehab, where there are digital platforms where you're able to digitally deliver and remotely monitor this, in neuropsychological rehab, that technology doesn't exist. That approach hasn't been developed yet. There is some great brain training stuff, but it's difficult to relate that directly into real world, everyday living. So this is a big slide, but I'll just want to kind of pull out some of the key points here. But it's a process of developing understanding and awareness in that individual, and then developing strategies to help them manage and overcome. And in the field, again, it's simplifying things, but you have compensatory strategies and you have restorative strategies. So restorative strategies is actually improving that cognitive functioning, brain training, cognitive training, physical rehabilitation. Compensatory strategies is a little bit more nuanced, but actually longer term result in better outcomes. And they are internal, so thought processes, behaviors. We have, all of us, many ways of, we get a problem, what do we do? We feel anxious, what do we do? These are these internal strategies that we've developed in our brain, and also these external ones. And what is cool is actually these two things are much more linked than we think. By doing certain training, you can develop internal thought processes and strategies, and by doing the internal, you can actually make neuroplastic change. So where did we start as a company? And there's someone in the audience who's been alongside this journey for a very long time. So we got some grant funding from Innovate UK. That was the first thing to kickstart it. And Ian was my monitoring officer, so you've probably seen some of these slides. But my brother got a paging device, and it was used in rehab to practically support his medication reminders kind of stuff, but also reinforce some of the therapies that he was doing in the centre back home. So we took that and we just thought, let's just put this into a mobile app as kind of V1. And we added some stuff where you can add your caregivers. We did location trigger prompting. We did some space retrieval, and it was effective. But really, we needed users. So we managed to get this out there free. Lots and lots of data that we used to then inform the next kind of iterations of the product. And so I'll go through this a little bit quickly. I'm not sure when I started, but let me know.
Okay.
So people need guidance that is relevant, easy to action. It sounds, in hindsight, it sounds so simple, but with someone with cognitive impairment, you need something which is a simple, I hear this, I do that. It needs to be absolutely timely, and there needs to be a clear action associated to it. And professionals have been at delivering this. So when in our app, those individuals who were connected to so in their care circle, they had a professional. The engagement, the usage, the way it was used, it wasn't just used for simple, things that you might use for Google Calendar for. It was used to improve the adoption of their therapies and integrating them into their everyday life. And there's also this big area around accountability. Any technology in this field needs a foundation of cognitive support. And I like to put this here, this is simplified, but if you're not dealing with some of these bottom kind of pillars, you can never get to these higher points. And healthcare delivery needs, in this field, you need to account for these bits from the kind of bottom up. Otherwise, it all falls down and nothing will really kind of get ingrained, and you won't get those outcomes. And then finally, designing for engagement is critical. And like one of the reasons I think like brain training is a great example of how you can really incentivize and gamify. And the engagement in those things is brilliant. The more boring kind of therapy tasks, keeping a log of what you've been eating or fatigue is nowhere near as fun. So how can we bring some of that gamification in? And we did some experiments around memory challenges, which I can go into a little bit more detail, but it massively drives engagement in the platform beyond just that individual user feature. And obviously, drives of both of this is personalization and involving nearest and dearest. And by that that's quite a subtle point. That is, if someone is just aware that these are challenges that are important, this is what you're working on, it's as simple as a little, you're making lunch for someone and said, oh, have you done this? Have you done that? That kind of stuff, those little conversations make a huge impact. So it's getting those people coordinated and kind of, on the same page. So for that kind of simple app that we developed, we got some more, really it was capitalized by some grant funding, we also got some external funding, and we began a collaboration with some clinical leaders in this field to really add an element in. And we wanted to kind of address some of those lessons, but we knew we needed to integrate into the care pathway. This isn't something that you can just give someone 3 or 4 years after an incident. It needs to be part of that rehab journey. So we teamed up. We did a huge amount of discovery work at the Wolston, which is a very good specialist neuro-rehab centre. And we were basically just sat in the background observing a group of engineers and designers with some lived experience, but just kind of involved. A lot of it was specialist one-to-one sessions, but also group sessions, lots and lots of interviews, and lots of Zoom videos to go through. And so what we have now is a two-sided platform for the patient and the caregiver. That's a companion app, and this combines this cognitive tools. So there's a kind of suite of tools powered by some of the recent developments in AI, and that's there to support daily living and independence, but also form that basis of how they can use the therapeutic content that's delivered on the app, so improving that usability. The therapies that are delivered are personalized, engaged, and this uses some of the data that we collect on the platform, and also provided by the clinician, which you'll see in a bit. And there's a caregiver portal, so a side of the app for them, which gives education, also lets them remotely kind of manage and see what's going on with their loved one. And for the professionals, the dashboard to help them deliver some of these strategies and reinforce them outside the clinic, track progress and goals, and finally automate some of the clinical tasks and admin. And this is just like a little example of one of the strategies that used to be used for remembering something. So this is actually what young people unfortunately get. They've got a serious memory problem. Why don't you try this thing to remember this, your carer's number, and we can turn it into something with a single tap, and it generates confetti and a score, and people love it. So we've got a group now of early adopting customers, some in the US, some in the UK, and we're getting some really, really nice results. So 2 times improvement in memory. This isn't memory in terms of a artificial context. This is things that they want to remember. So examples might be, a joke to tell friends down the pub, or how to use their dishwasher. So we're getting some really nice real examples of that. Therapy endurance is increased to 82% for tasks that are delivered on the platform. 85% of individuals and caregivers report improved independence up to 30 days. And finally, we deal a lot with the US. That's where a lot of the investment in this field is coming from. You need an incentive for the provider to adopt this. So recently, there's been some new CPT, basically billing codes for those who aren't aware of the US system, which are used heavily in other fields, not used in neuro. And what we can do is the tasks that they're currently doing, by doing a little bit of kind of clever use of these codes and reapplying them, we can turn that non-billable time into billable time and incentivize adoption. So what we're trying to do is take, this gold standard, try and reduce that cost, whilst also trying to add value. So we can reduce the cost up to 50% whilst trying to improve quality, duration, and support that caregivers provide. So I don't know how much time.
5 minutes, max.
5 minutes. Okay. So what next? I mean, we've got we're doing a fundraising round at the moment, which is big. But what I want to focus on, which is a bit more kind of maybe interesting to you guys, is what is this next generation technology? So obviously, as an engineer, I've got very excited the last few years with AI actually becoming useful rather than just being this thing that we kind of saw in movies. And I won't go through this, but effectively, where we've seen the greatest leaps is the large language models, and this is the kind of that you're chatting face with something, and it's so effective because it is kind of mimicking many scientists believe it's mimicking how the human brain operates. And what is really, I think, the advancements is it is now really accessible and easy to use. And I think there was a talk earlier. I'd love to go into a bit more detail about what's the next steps for it. But where we're looking at it is, accessibility. These things on the left used to be super, super difficult. Now, with a few API calls, you can turn text to speech. You can generate a custom image. Maybe someone wants to conceptualize a bit of information you want them to learn. You can simplify information, and you can do this also in a personalized way. So you can take someone's they suffer with these impairments, and then you can use that to really personalize that. In terms of ease of use, automate many processes, reduce the number of taps that someone needs to do, have adaptable UI. This is all stuff that is, I think, coming. And for us, this is stuff that we're doing now that going to support, helping sequencing, scheduling. This idea of a cognitive assistant used to be a massive engineering challenge. It is now feasible. And what we like to do also is provide kind of real-time support for users of how they can use our solution in a way to give them maximum kind of therapeutic value, and also in the recommendations. The challenge around this really is it's an engineering integration challenge, which is where I think that as the future of this going, a lot of this stuff is possible, but the amount of different platforms that people use, for example, if you're using ChatGPT, I want to send an email, you want ChatGPT to send that email, and that is this is an integration engineering challenge. But yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot of this in the future. And I'll just finish with my brother Luke. So this isn't me. I can nowhere near as fast as that, but he's made a brilliant recovery. A lot of that was thanks to getting that gold standard care. But he was one of the lucky ones. What we want to try and do is help the millions who don't get that make exceptional recoveries like Luke. So thank you very much, and hopefully chat with you all later.